Welcome to Hollywood Around the Edges, where we explore the highways and byways of stardom and semi-stardom during Hollywood's golden age. My name is Janet Roitz, and over there, 3,000 miles away, is my friend Laura Wagner. Hi, Laura.
Hi, Janet.
We are going to spend the first part of this show correcting ourselves because we made this big to-do about getting things right and getting things correct. And I really realized that it's hard to do. You can't always say somebody's name the right way or get the facts completely right, but we're going to try because, as your friend Leonard Maltin said, why not get it right? It doesn't cost any more to get it right. So when we make mistakes, we're going to cop to them, and this section is called Physician Heal Thyself, because I made such a big deal about it last time. So here we go. I'm going to cop to the fact that, first of all, Laura, I have been calling your book, which is called Let Me Tell You How I Really Feel, I have been calling that Let Me Tell You What I Really Think. Is it the worst thing in the world? No. But like Leonard Maltin said, it doesn't cost me anymore to get it right. So your book of book reviews, one of your books of book reviews, is called Let Me Tell You How I Really Feel. The other thing that I did was I was talking about some of the women highlighted in your book, Hard Luck Ladies, and I mentioned Mayo Metho, and I just, flippantly said, oh, yes, Humphrey Bogart's first wife, and she was not his first wife. Which number was she?
Number 3.
Number 3. Okay.
And all of them were actresses.
Most people know, okay, he was married before Lauren Bacall. That's all I was thinking. But Mayo Metho was Humphrey Bogart's third wife. Then later on, we started talking, you mentioned Zazu Pitts, and all my life, I have said Zazu Pitts. Everybody I know says Zazu Pitts. And then the other day I heard someone somewhere say Zazu Pitts. And it made me think, well, how in the heck do you say her name? And you found a photograph where Zazu is taking a pointer and showing us all how to pronounce her name. It's Za as in Eliza and Zu as in Suzanne, which is kind of weird because you say as kind of a Z sound for that. I'm not going to split hairs here. You say Zazu Pitts. Zazu Pitts. And just a little side note, Zazu grew up in Santa Cruz, California, as did I.
Wow.
And as did Beverly Garland of My Three Sons fame and other things. She was in films before that.
She was wonderful on My Three Sons.
She was, wasn't she?
Very likable.
Very likable, indeed.
She was on Joe Franklin a lot. And she would go, knock on wood. Where's wood? Where's the wood? And he'd go, right there. I mean, it was just so funny. It's better than I'm making it out to be. But anyway.
Well, no, I mean, that does sound funny, but who would know that Beverly Garland was a real card? This is why we are talking to Laura Wagner, because she knows things like this. I say Beverly Garland, and she says, oh, in real life, she was very funny. This is what we're talking about. This is the realm in which we're living. But moving right along, Laura Wagner asked me a question that I was unable to answer, but she is able to answer. And the question was, what is your favorite movie?
Okay.
So, Laura, what is your favorite movie, and tell us why?
Well, for many years, it was The Black Swan with Tyrone Power and Maureen O'Hara. It's a pirate movie. It always used to come on during my birthday, and I was like, it's because I love it so much. But then I watched Junior Miss, 1945, with Peggy Ann Garner as Judy Graves and Barbara Lighting in her film debut as Fuffy Adams. I'll tell you one quote from the movie that I absolutely love. So Barbara is in Judy's apartment. They're in apartment buildings. And her mother calls. And, Peggy goes, your mother wants to know what you're doing. Are you going to come up? And she goes, tell her I'm too drunk to talk. I loved her from that moment on. But she was 14 at the time and had never made a movie. Ever. She was a natural. And her parents, her father was songwriter Richard A. Whiting, who everyone knows as the composer of Hooray for Hollywood, Ain't We Got Fun, Japanese Sandman, and many others. I mean, so many movies, and he died young. But Barbara's aunt on her mother's side was a vaudeville singer, Margaret Young. I think their name was Young Blood, but of course she took off the blood. Margaret Whiting is her sister, and she, of course, was a great singer, my favorite singer.
Wow.
And I was able to interview her and Barbara. I didn't even want to call Barbara. I was scared out of my mind. And I'm not nervous usually when I talk to singers or actors or whatever. But that one, oh my gosh, it was brutal. But she just treated me like she had known me forever. You know, she thought, well, maybe you're reincarnated from somebody that we knew in the 40s. Junior Miss was based on New Yorker Stories by Sally Benson. And then it became a stage play. Then it became 2 radio shows. The first one with Shirley Temple as Judy Graves. That didn't do very well. That went off the air pretty fast. And then later in the 40s, after the movie version, Barbara Whiting starred as Judy Graves. She was not Fuffy Adams in that. And that was a popular show that lasted at least 5 years. When I talked to Margaret at first, she told me this poem that Barbara, she was 14 years older than Barbara. And so they didn't let Barbara down at the parties they used to have every Saturday night. And, you know, they would ask Margaret to sing. And Barbara was like, this is ridiculous. She goes down there in her nightgown and she says to everybody, I hate Margaret. She'd make a great target. She sings, she thinks, but I think she stinks. And then she went back upstairs. Everyone got hysterical. And later on, many years later, I was talking to Marsha Hunt, the great Marsha Hunt, and I mentioned Barbara, I don't know why. And she said, oh, I remember I was at a party Saturday night, and Barbara came down, and she said, I hate Margaret. She'd make a great... She knew it exactly. How many years ago was that? That was many, many years ago. That she remembered.
Amazing.
So now we're going to talk about Sally Benson. She wrote the Junior Miss stories. And when I tell you what her credits, you are not going to believe this. She's best known for writing stories in The New Yorker that later became Meet Me in St. Louis with Judy Garland. She also wrote the screenplay for Shadow of a Doubt, Hitchcock. She was nominated for an Oscar for her screenplay in Anna and the King of Siam with Irene Dunne and was it Rex Harrison. She wrote the screenplay for Come to the Stable, which AMC used to show that all the time. That was Celeste Holm and Loretta Young. And she also wrote the screenplay for Viva Las Vegas and The Singing Nun. Oh, that wonderful, wonderful movie with Debbie Reynolds. I love Debbie Reynolds. I do. And who doesn't?
Moving right along to our second section, or our third section. I don't know what section this is, but we are going to have a section during our show called Shantusi Corner, otherwise known as Ladies of the Nightclubs, talking about the ladies that sang in nightclub scenes in movies, of which there were many. And today's Shantusi is Veronica Lake in This Gun for Hire. She's singing 2 songs called Now You See It, Now You Don't, and I've Got You. And in This Gun for Hire, Veronica Lake plays a nightclub singer / magician. And these 2 songs were written by Frank Lesser and Jacques Press. Frank Lesser, who everyone knows, went on to write the music and lyrics for Broadway shows Guys and Dolls, The Most Happy Fella, How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. But in these days, he was a staff lyricist at different movie studios. And so he wrote the lyrics for these 2 songs for Veronica Lake with a guy named Jacques Press, who this was this was the biggest budget movie that I think he wrote music for, because he went on then to write music for a couple of our favorites. And I actually have something to say about these later on: Swamp Woman and Hat Check Honey. And he
would be
but
proud
his
of those.
real calling in life was, I would be proud of those too. His real calling in life, Jacques Press, was he wrote classical music, and he wrote a piece called The Wedding Dance that I think is performed by orchestras. But in this case, he's writing the music for Veronica Lake for This Gun for Hire. And Edith Head designed the costumes for Veronica Lake, and she looks fabulous in the scene where she's auditioning to be in a leg show. That's what she's auditioning for, Laird Krieger, and he backs leg shows. So she's auditioning for him, and she's wearing this gold lame dress with a cinched waist and kind of gathered around the bust line, and it shimmers and it glows. And as she glides across the room, I think she was so tiny that they had her in real, high heels. As the light hits the dress, you can see through it a little bit. Now you see it, now you don't. And they wrote this song specifically so that she could do these magic tricks. So she'll sing a line, and then there'll be a measure of just music where she pulls ping pong balls out of somebody's jacket, or makes a birdie fly up in the air, or pulls a card out of something. And she looks great. She sounds great, but we're going to talk about why she sounds great later. Then later on, she gets the job, and she's at the Neptune Club singing a song called I Got You, where she's dressed in a very fashionable fishing outfit, including waders. And she does magic tricks there with fish, with mermaids kind of draped around in the background. So these songs were written specifically for her. So they were trying to make a star out of Veronica Lake at the time. And so what better way than to have her sing songs, look great, be dressed beautifully. This is how you make a star. But Veronica Lake did not sing, and someone sang for her. And Laura, will you tell us who sang for Veronica Lake in This Gun for Hire?
Martha Mears, Mears. And she was born in Mexico, Missouri. I've never heard of that place, but it's interesting. She went to the University of Missouri. She sang on radio. And she was married to Sidney Brokaw, who was a violinist for big bands like Artie Shaw. And she was a very prolific dubber. Very much so. I mean, I have about 2 pages if you want to hear this, because she also dubbed Veronica Lake in I Wanted Wings.
Well, maybe not all 2 pages, but
I don't know. I mean, this is Hedy Lamarr. I'll tell you the names of the actors. How about that? Andrea King, Virginia Houston, Ava Gabor, Ellen Drew, Jennifer Jones, Carol Landis, Audrey Totter, Maria Montez, Veronica Lake in Star Spangled Rhythm, and also she was dubbing Rita Hayworth in Tonight and Every Night, and Virginia Fields in Weekend for Father, which was actually Patricia Neal's favorite movie, if you could believe that. She loved that movie. She told me that was her favorite movie. Of all the things she did, that was her favorite movie.
Tell us that again. Patricia Neal
told me that Weekend with Father, 1951, with Van Heflin, was her favorite movie of all the movies that she ever appeared in. That's saying a lot. I mean, she just kept saying, Van Heflin was divine.
I have a question, which is, do you think audiences in those days knew or cared that Veronica Lake was dubbed? Do you think they even noticed, or did it matter to them? What do you think?
I don't think they cared. I think they just figured, I mean, there were some, I've read columns in newspapers where they said, oh, and Veronica Lake shows us that she has a wonderful voice. It's not like today where we know a lot more. It's at our fingertips. Back then, all right, she's singing in a movie. Sounds good to me. But I do have a story about that because Martha Tilton, I interviewed her in around 2000. She was a dubber. And she said, I did a lot for Universal. And then there was one time where we were watching it in a theater and someone goes, "That's Martha Tilton." And she said she never got another dubbing job because her voice had become too familiar that you couldn't just put her, voice in someone else's mouth. So she said she couldn't get a dubbing job after that. So, and Margaret Whiting, she was a dubber.
Is there a book about movie dubbers?
No. There is a person working on one who had access to a lot of studio records. I don't know if she's anywhere near finishing, but if that does come out, that's going to be quite a book. I wrote an article about dubbing, but, that was a long time ago.
And you wrote that article in Classic Images?
I called it I Dub Thee.
It's really great. I Dub Thee. I think that wraps it up for today. I think we've covered a lot of territory. There's a lot more to cover. But I think we should end with the Patsy Jecky Award for typos and mispronunciations that you have found in your tenure as a book reviewer. So you have found these along the way. And we are just going to highlight a few because they're quite amusing.
I had one in something that I wrote, and I had sent it to a friend to proofread. And, of course, he makes fun of me now. But instead of the 7-year itch, I wrote the 7-year inch. I was embarrassed, but it's funny.
No, you actually won the Patsy Jecky Award.
Yes. I believe I did.
You're a Patsy Jecky Award winner.
Yes.
Okay. Well, good. We'll end on that. So everybody can't get it right, but we try. We try. We don't want to be mean-spirited about this. They're funny. I mean, they're just funny. Come on, they're funny. If Laura Wagner can say the 7-year inch instead of the 7-year itch, then there's hope for all of us. There really is.
Okay.
Laura, thank you very much for being here today. And we're going to be back with episode 3. And we'll talk about other stuff. There's so much stuff to talk about,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, there really is. There's really a lot.
Before we go, tell us the names of the books that you've written one more time because
oh my God.
They're great. And I just feel like people should know.
But,
give us the titles.
Killer Tomatoes. I wrote that with Ray Hagan. Anne Francis, Hard Luck Ladies, Hollywood Boozers and Brawlers, and Hard Luck Cases, 3 book review books, and my newest Mantam Moreland book just came out the other day.
All right, everybody. Thank you for being with us, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you very much again for listening, everybody, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.